Hello and welcome to Mountain Patriot Homestead. I have got my apron on. I'm in the kitchen, so that must mean it's time to get cooking. Today's recipe is called Meltaway cookies, and though we weren't specifically trying to make a gluten-free cookie, just because of the ingredients that go into this, it is gluten-free. Now, it only has 3 ingredients unless you count the powdered sugar right at the very end. But to begin, all we need is 4 tablespoons of softened butter. I'm just going to put that right in the bowl. And a 1/4 cup of sweetened condensed milk. Now, not evaporated milk, but the sweetened condensed milk. And that just goes right in there with your butter. Now, I could make this a little more easily by using a hand mixer, but I just wanted to show you how easy this goes together even without a hand mixer, because all you're doing is you're trying to cream that butter and sweetened condensed milk together until it's nice creamy consistency. And since both of them are creamy to start with, it does not take much. You're just combining them together, getting out any little lumps or anything. You don't want it lumpy. But all I'm using is a little rubber spatula here, and it is blending together perfectly. Now, if your kitchen was a little cool and your butter was not softened that much, then it might be a little more difficult. But just like that, it is ready. Now, this is 3/4 of a cup of cornstarch. Yes, we're not using flour. This is just cornstarch. And I'm putting that right in there with that butter and sweetened condensed milk. I'm just going to gently, because if you've worked with cornstarch before, you know it is very fine powder and it will go everywhere if you're not careful. That's why I wanted to mix it by hand rather than using a mixer, because I'll end up cleaning the house if I try to use a mixer. And you just slowly incorporate those together. Now, if your dough ends up, the reason I still have the cornstarch setting out is if the dough ends up being too sticky when I'm ready to form it and put it on this covered baking pan here, then I'll add just a little bit more of the cornstarch. Okay, that's about as far as I'm going to go with it with this. I could keep doing it that way if I wanted to, but I'm just going to get right in here and just mix these together. Now, because of the ingredients that it's made with, when it says melt away, that's exactly what it will do. It will just melt in your mouth. Now, one point about using your hands is you can tell the stickiness of the dough, and I can feel that it is still a little sticky, so I'm going to get a little bit more of my cornstarch. Not too much. I don't want to overdo it. But it's just like making bread, that if you start mixing up your bread and you start kneading it together, and it's just not, if it's too tacky, I don't know if you have ever heard that term or not, but my mama used that term. If it's too tacky, which means too sticky, then you just added a little bit more of your powder to it. In this case, rather than flour, it is cornstarch. Okay. That's almost with it. Now, if you wanted to make it a colored dough, you could add some type of food coloring and just work it in like this for whatever holiday or event that you're celebrating. See, that is coming together perfectly. And another nice thing about this recipe is it doesn't make just a ton of cookies. I don't know about y'all, but most of the recipes that I have will make 3 or 4 dozen cookies. I don't need 3 or 4 dozen cookies around the house. You know, sometimes we just want a little bit, and we don't need just a whole conglomeration of cookies around here. So what I'm using here is I've just got this little melon baller, which, you know, I could actually use spoon, which may be what I end up doing, but maybe that'll work. But what I was saying is this makes a nice batch of cookies without having 4 dozen cookies that you're either having to give away or eat too many of. Just like that. Just getting them out there. Alright, and that one's going to be a little one. That's one of them test cookies. I'm just going to spread them out a little bit more since I've got plenty of room. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put that cornstarch back in there. But I'm going to do this. You can use a fork, but I'm going to dust the back of that so it don't stick. But I could use a fork to mash them out with. I can just use the bottom of this little measuring cup and just mash them out a little bit. Alright, now those are going to go in the oven for around 13 minutes or so. I'll keep an eye on them because I don't want them to burn, but I'll put them in there about 13 minutes and we'll go and check on. So I have just taken these out of the oven. There's 9 of them here, and the finishing touch on it is going to be, I have a jar of powdered sugar. Now, this is optional. I guess if you don't want powdered sugar on it, you certainly don't have to. But just to kind of finish these off and give them a little finishing touch, you can come on here with just a light dusting or heavy, your choice, of powdered sugar, just to finish them off, make them pretty. Now, I did not put any type of an extract in here, so pretty much the flavor is coming from the sweetened condensed milk. If you wanted to put a little bit of some sort of extract, if you wanted to put vanilla, if you wanted to put almond, lemon, if you wanted to add some other type of flavor in here, just remember you may have to adjust your cornstarch accordingly. But that's how easy it is, and we are going to taste them as soon as they cool down. You leave these, rather than putting them on a baking rack like you normally do other cookies to let them finish cooling down, these are going to cool down right in the pan. So when they cool down, we'll taste them and see if they melt away. So here is the smallest of those melt-aways. I figured I would try out the littlest one first and then share the bigger ones with my husband when he gets home. But let's make sure they're fitting to eat, as Mama would have said. Because of the simplicity of the ingredients in here, it is so easy to taste each one of them individually. The butter comes through like a champ. The sweetened condensed milk adds enough of that sweet dairy creaminess to it. And then the cornstarch, corn has its own sweetness, so it adds just a level of flavor that is really good. And these, I ended up baking them for 15 minutes because I thought they still looked rather pale. I probably should have went on ahead and taken them out at 13 minutes because they're a little crunchier, I guess, than they're probably supposed to be, but that's okay. I still think they taste very good. And then that little bit of powdered sugar on top just makes it that much better. So there you go. A 3-ingredient, 4 if you add the powdered sugar, or you could even dust it with some cinnamon on top. Now there's a thought, but without any type of topping on it. That's 3 ingredients, very simple, makes it gluten-free for those that are gluten intolerant, and just an all-around simple, good cookie, almost like a vanilla wafer. So give it a try.